Running a little tired. Right, so we are now on, correct?
You're on.
All right, so good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled December 20th, 2021 school committee meeting. It is now 6 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. I will ask if anyone is audio or videotaping that they let us know. No one in attendance here is. And we have some folks coming in now, so if anyone is audio or video recording in the audience, just let us know. And nobody has their hand up, so we will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. We'll start with a roll call. Pam, do you mind starting us off tonight?
Sure. Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Gregory Thompson.
It's Sally Rochelle.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Sarah Tulio.
Bill Fonseca.
Elizabeth Marcin Boucher.
Nick Cassidy.
Heather Brown, Director of Curriculum.
And Kathy, do you want to say hi?
Kathy Saletti, Recording Secretary.
I don't see anyone else who's put a hand up relative to wanting to speak or address the committee. There's nobody waiting to get in, right, Dot?
No.
All right, so then we will move forward and move into committee and subcommittee communications.
I should do it.
Nick, do you want to start us today?
Yeah, well, I wish I had something more interesting, but I really don't. So some notable things at school is that 2 weeks ago we had midpoint, so we don't have that much time left in our current classes, so we will switch over and I'll get about 3 new classes. I know some kids will get 4 new classes. And last Friday we had Cafe East, like I talked about last time. It's something fun for us like students to do, and it's kind of something that we haven't had in a long time, so it's kind of nice to still have it as COVID gets a little more intense, but it's still nice to have.
And next students are actually the ones producing cafes.
Yeah, so they're culinary class at school. They like kind of test things out and they try things and they think, oh, this will like sell, and then they like make it all like that whole week and then they sell it on, I think it was last Friday. So I think they did pretty well. I mean, I'm not in the class right now, but I think they did very well. And I'm pretty sure at least every single sports team has had some sort of game. So we've still have that going on. Like last Friday, the whole track team went to Wheaton, Mass. And we competed there. And that's kind of all I had. Not really much exciting at ELHS right now.
How was it at Wheaton? Because that's a new venue for us.
It was really nice. Like their track, like I thought it was like nice, but we're not allowed back only because of COVID. So we had, I think, maybe one more scheduled meet there, but because of COVID, they're not allowing anyone back. Like right now, track's kind of at a standstill because Smith College won't let us back, and Wheaton won't let us back. And the only way, like other place we could compete is in Boston, I believe.
Right.
And we don't really know about that. And we can't go across state lines. So it's if we could have meets outside, but it's kind of getting cold and people don't want to do that. So it's kind of just training until outdoor right now.
Makes it challenging when it's indoor track
track.
and you're competing outdoors.
Yeah, which we did all last year during COVID. So.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Nick.
I don't really, other than I know you guys had a rainy track meet.
Well,
That was quite the
we don't
experience.
talk about
Yeah.
that.
But no, I'm good, thank you.
I'm good.
Well, I'm good right now too.
I just wanted to mention that we sent out a press release today, which I'll have to get up also on the webpage, that we have signed a contract with our owner project manager who will help us now move forward in getting accomplishing the feasibility study. And the biggest next step is organizing ourselves with the owner project manager's help, who is Skanska USA Building International, with their help to identify a designer. And then the designer, once we've selected them, moves us into the actual study phase, and a lot more action happens. We had a high school building committee meeting last week just to update them on all of this. And we'll have one in that first week of the new year to continue to move and outline the process for the building committee.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's exciting. Sorry.
No, Antonella?
No, I don't have anything.
I'm good, thanks.
All right, so Next is a discussion relative to test and stay. So I know Kelly's in the audience, if you don't mind bringing her in, Don. And you had some slides for us and for the community, right, Gordon?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let me get it on screen for all of you.
Hi, Kelly, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Excellent, glad we can hear you. Welcome.
Okay, everybody see that?
Yes.
In
Thank you.
the viewing audience, Mr. Mackey, see that?
Yeah, so you're doing that from the same laptop?
Yes.
Oh, well, when you just shared it with Apple, it got a little funky on the screen share on here.
Okay.
So I may just use the camera and do it that way.
Okay.
If you want to do that.
So you want me to stop sharing my?
Yeah, if you stop sharing, that'd probably be, I'll just go with the,
All right. Let's see. You're welcome. Is that better?
that's better.
Okay. Okay, and we have Ms. LeLombard, our nurse leader, with us. And what we wanted to provide all of you today is just an overview of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's testing program. And we know from previous discussions and discussions that we've had not only Ms. LeLombard on, but other health officials, that currently, especially in the last week, we've been seeing more and more positive cases, but probably more importantly, as we think test and stay, or the testing program, more close contacts. So as we identify close contacts, and we do that within the guidelines provided by Department of Public Health and DESE, unfortunately, those students have to then quarantine at home. And that's what's been going on in the fall. We do have a live connection with the students every day, but obviously it's not the same as being in school. So this program is designed to help with that situation. So let me give you an overview, and Ms. LeLombard, please feel free. I no longer see you on my screen, but jump in at any point.
Okay,
Okay, great. It's kind of like that voice from above. Nice. So in the testing program, there are three components. There's symptomatic testing. What that is basically, and I'll go through these on the next slide, is a child in school or a staff member is experiencing symptoms. We would actually have the capacity to test and get an idea if COVID is connected to those symptoms.
Would that require parental?
All of this will require.
So how do we do that? If someone comes in with symptoms, we call home or something?
Well, let me go through.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, let me go through the
sorry.
program, and then but everything is gonna require parental
Yeah, I knew the rest.
permission.
Yep.
Then there's the test and stay program, which is around the idea that someone's been identified as a close contact, has been obviously exposed to someone who's been identified with a positive case. In this situation, that's where you're, with permission, you're testing, and as long as they continue to test negative on these rapid tests, they get to stay in school. And then there's a pooled testing portion of this, and that's more preventative. and it's trying to get an idea of, and I'll go into more detail as we go to the next slide, get an idea of what is the amount of COVID that might be in your community or in a specific building. So districts may participate in 1, 2, or all 3 parts of the program. Throughout Massachusetts, districts are participating in exactly that. Some are just doing 1 portion of the program, some might be doing 2, and then there are districts certainly that are doing all 3. Key point, Mr. Thompson just actually highlighted this. No student or staff member may participate without a signed consent form. So that would be part of a pretty big communication effort with families, should this be something that the school committee decides to go forward with.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Would that consent form be sent out to everyone originally?
Mhm.
We're not waiting for events to occur to get consent.
No, we would do this ahead of time.
Can we get consent if they haven't given consent, but something happens? Can they opt in later?
You can always opt in, it just takes time. We
Yep.
would have to exclude that person
Okay.
while we're getting that.
Yep.
Yeah, or exclude's a strong word. We'd have to quarantine that person while we.
Home.
Yeah, they would have to be at home.
Yeah, okay.
So just a little bit more detail on the 3 testing elements. So symptomatic testing, this is just as I said, when students or an individual is presenting symptoms at school, rather than immediately sending that person home, should we already have consent to conduct testing, we would use the testing kits that they're using is the Binax Now rapid antigen test. And should that person who's experiencing symptoms test negative, that person will be able to stay. Give you an example, just quick, of my own life, so I'm not violating any HIPAA information. Our protocol that we ask everyone to do every morning is just do a quick self-evaluation of how they're feeling and do they have certain symptoms that, when you couple a few of them together, might be COVID. Could be other things, could be the common cold, could be other things. But if you have those, we ask you to stay home and go get a PCR test. 2 weeks ago, I was experiencing those exact symptoms. So I did stay home, conducted any meetings I had remotely, and then I went and got a PCR test at the Eastfield Mall. I got the results. It was a Thursday. I got the results on Friday. I was still home on Friday, working from home until I got the results that said I was negative. That allowed me to come back to work. If we were in this program, and it is a school related situation. So the symptoms would be something that I could relate back to, well, this is what I've done over the last day or two. I know I've been in schools, I've been working with, any number of individuals, I've held these meetings. As long as it's school related, I could go down to the testing room, I could take the Binax Now rapid antigen test, comes back negative, I can stay.
For symptomatic.
For symptomatic, yeah. Test and stay, moving to the green in the middle, unless there are questions on the first one.
Who would identify the symptoms to trigger the testing?
Generally, and so in my case, I was the one who identified it.
Yep,
But a student might start to feel sick and go to the nurse.
okay.
And so then the nurse is evaluating that student.
Is that the criteria? They would go to the nurse? So if someone comes in with a cough and the sniffles, who does the teacher, who triggers the test? Who says, give that kid a test?
So the only thing that's going to allow us to test would be consent, obviously.
Which we have prior.
If it's symptomatic and we choose to be in that portion of the program, yes, then the nurse would have, in a school setting with students, would be reviewing the situation with the student. Should they present those type of symptoms and we have consent, then we would probably call and have that.
We're still gonna call first? Or no, is that what we meant by call?
I'm
Call parent?
saying that whether that ends up being the process or not, that could be something if you decide that's what you want us to do.
Well, my question then would be, how many kids come to the nurse on a daily basis? And Kelly, how many of those percentage-wise relatively would you think would trigger a COVID test of those
Well,
kids?
If a student had, trouble breathing and a fever and, a combination of symptoms like that, we would want them to go to their pediatrician because they could have strep throat, they could have the flu, they could have COVID. But if somebody comes in, let's say they're vaccinated, somebody comes in and they have cold symptoms. If we had consent, we could test them and, make sure that it's safe for them to stay in school. Of course, if they didn't feel well, we would want them to go home.
Are you giving us recommendations on the three, or how are we gonna go about this?
I can give you recommendations.
I mean, we can go through all of them, but.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're not recommending symptomatic testing, I won't go any further. But if
So-
you're seriously considering it, we can keep talking about it.
Well, Kelly, what would you think, based on the traffic that we're getting in the nurse's office, would you feel that symptomatic testing would be worth doing?
I think it would be helpful. So we've had 64 positive cases in the first 3 weeks of December. And we have 101 close contact students that were close contacts. So we could have tested, if we had test and stay, we could do
That's testing stuff.
101. If we had permission, we could test those and they could stay in school if they're negative and asymptomatic.
So with the symptomatic testing, because obviously you're not gonna send the student to wherever the close contact testing, and would it be our nurses that would give the test?
Not
The
necessarily.
nurses would be doing the symptomatic testing, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They would do the
Not necessarily, Kelly.
No?
Well,
No, because if you're doing the test and stay program, I believe once we're trained by the CIC Health, they would go, once the nurse has determined, yes, we have consent, yes, we have symptoms, yes, it makes sense to test, I think it would go to the testing room or whatever the site is.
We're gonna
Our
have-
nurses would be able to.
we're gonna have a
if we get
site in every
trained.
school?
I think that all
With
depends on the
additional staff?
onboarding, what
Um,
they're able to actually staff.
So, I don't know, keep, you can.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, so from my
May I-
first
may I-
glance, though, I don't really like the symptomatic testing because it's very subjective, and if they have symptoms, that's when we don't want them in the school.
Yeah, so there's,
They can go and
it's
get
a
a
big difference and you're right.
Yep.
I think we started to answer test and stay and not symptomatic testing.
Right.
Yeah.
But before we leave symptomatic testing, the one piece that I would mention is this might be helpful for staff.
But it's a Bionex Rapid, and so if they have symptoms, that's like one check against them, and the Rapid not being
If they have cold.
as
symptoms.
accurate, right? As the
It's not as accurate as a PCR. test.
PCI.
That's still the.
which is that criteria if they get a test outside of school, right?
Yeah.
We don't take the Bionex.
Right, but so my point being that if a staff member starts to have cold symptoms, not to the level, that Kelly was just describing, trouble breathing and all these other pieces.
Yep.
This would allow a staff member to stay.
Can
Where,
we just do staff members?
Yeah,
I mean, you can decide, well, that's a good question.
I don't-
because I guess I
so-
feel if the kids.
I think
have
if you're doing
symptoms, they
symptomatic
should be home.
testing,
Then I don't think we should.
anybody who consents you'd have to be in.
The question too about that one is, when you look at test and stay,
Mhm.
there's a period of time by which we need to continue to test.
Mhm.
Whereas with symptomatic testing, does that time out? So I might be sniffly and not have a fever, but have a cough and a sore throat, so you test me on Monday. And then I keep coming to school because that was negative, but now on Wednesday, I'm a little worse. Like, can I get retested? Like, it doesn't seem
I
as
think you can get retested.
fleshed
yeah.
out as,
Yeah.
It's not as fleshed out.
okay, so
Yeah, it's
that's, there's more gray there.
Yeah,
so-
there is more gray.
And the rapid test not being as accurate as the
PCR.
PCR
Mhm.
it's not a good measure, I think. I think if we have symptomatic symptoms, we should follow procedures already in place, which are
Go home.
CPR tests,
Go home.
PCR tests, go home, right? So why the
Until you get the
Bionex?
PCR test. you're
Yeah, I
home.
think the symptoms is a whole nother level. The test and stay, I'm more willing to discuss.
Yeah.
Just from a first onset, so.
The symptomatic testing though, I'd like if we could consider for just staff, because
I don't know that you can differentiate, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that because I haven't gone through the
Right.
entire application process and the onboarding with CIC Health, but.
because I know if you've got a kid, they got a symptom, you're like, go.
But I do
And
see
then
the
you hope that they
advantages,
stay and they go home.
the advantages,
You know?
well, I'll just use my own example. You know, if it were a situation where we had symptomatic testing, then what I would have done instead of stayed home that day is I would have come here, gone to where we are doing the testing, asked them to do the testing, and then I would have been able to stay. I mean, I wasn't feeling to the point where I couldn't function and I needed to lie down, so.
But I think, and I don't know, Kelly, how this would actually play out, the symptoms that would trigger a test are more than just the sniffles or a little cough even.
Yeah.
So if they're that sick, they should probably go home anyway. I just think it's a whole nother level that not a big fan of a public entity like the schools testing children medically like this necessarily anyway. I know these are extreme times, call for extreme measures, but this is very subjective, and with the bi-index not being very reliable, are we trying to prevent spread, or are we just trying to keep kids in school? You know, I think it's two different things. If we're trying to prevent spread, I don't know that actually does it.
So I know that we haven't gotten to test and stay, and I know we'd like to get there, but if we send a child home because they had a symptom, we're like, hey, we think you should go home. Can
Sure.
the parent go to wherever the test and stay place is and have,
Not currently, no.
not currently?
No.
But I'm saying if with this, would that be allowed? If we said, we're not
We
doing,
wouldn't send them home necessarily if you're, unless it was severe, as Ms. LeLombard was describing. You know, if it was mild symptoms, the idea here is that you would test in the testing room if you're doing symptomatic testing.
right,
And if it comes back negative and the child feels as though they can continue with their day, we would let them go back.
right, but if we said, no, we're not gonna do that, they were gonna go home, they can't go to this test and stay
Currently,
area.
we send them home.
Right,
Right.
but they can't go to the test and stay on their way home.
No.
Oh, we're
We're
negative.
not participating in test and stay in.
You
No,
either,
if we did,
no,
But it's symptomatic.
no, you have to participate in
Right.
symptomatic or
Yes.
not participate in
Right.
symptomatic.
Right.
You can't pick
Okay.
and choose.
so test and stay doesn't count, you can't just say.
Test and stay is,
If
I haven't gotten there
we
yet.
are gonna decide whether we do symptomatic testing or not, and if we decide not to, then you
You
can't
can't
go
by
and do
default
test and
go to
stay. You
test and
have to be a direct contact to
Right.
be
The
able to do test
only
and stay.
way you
All
can,
right,
yes.
yeah.
And that's
No, I knew
determined by
that.
the health
I forgot
department.
about it. Yeah.
Yes.
Direct contact,
It's a combination between the health department and
and the
us.
district.
Yes,
We can identify direct contacts.
we do.
Mhm.
I know, yeah, okay, but for the definition of this.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
yep. What do you think?
About testing in school.
Starting
Um,
with symptomatic,
Oh, I just want to get.
I mean, I think it's kind of like odd if we were to do that, but I mean, like, I don't see necessarily what's wrong with it, but I mean, if it's not as accurate, I wouldn't like how you said, like, if I go to school on Monday, get a test and it's negative, and then I go to school Wednesday, but I'm positive, I don't think that's a very good gauge. I'd rather someone just stay home, get a test, make sure they're okay, and then come back to school.
For more accurate testing. Yeah,
Because I mean, like, it's a point of like how you said, stay in school, or you're trying to stop the spread. I think we're trying to stop the spread instead of everyone staying in school. Like, I mean, it's not good to miss school, but I mean, if you're preventing getting other people sick, especially now, because I'm seeing kids like not coming to school, some teachers are not here because of COVID, like people are like dropping. So like, we really need to like make sure that.
Oh, because of fear of getting COVID, not because they're necessarily
No, 'cause-
direct contacts or they're sick.
They're close
No, I'm
contacts.
saying
Oh, they're
like,
close
people are close contact
Okay.
or they're
Or
actually
they
sick.
actually have it.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
So there are
It's
just a
more
lot of
common
people
now.
missing from school, yeah, because of now just like the cold season and people just don't know. So I'd rather them just stay home or whatever,
So, but the test and stay would prevent some of that, the students that are asymptomatics, no symptoms. I shouldn't even say asymptomatics, they don't have symptoms.
Do you want me to
But
go through it?
they're direct contact, yeah, please.
Okay.
Just a little different.
Okay, so
Yeah.
symptomatic, we've gone through,
Mhm.
that's when someone in school is presenting symptoms.
Mhm.
Test and stay is different. This is when we have been either alerted to or someone has alerted us to a positive case that's been in our schools. And then we have gone through the contact tracing and we determine the close contacts. And we've identified those close contacts. And then with consent, we would allow those close contacts who have consented to participate in test and stay, we would allow them to come in at least for 5 days. And the reason for the 5 days is this, and Kelly, jump in if I'm incorrect on this, is that currently, when we identify you as a close contact, we send you home And from exposure, it's 5 days before we ask you to go get a PCR test. Because you're looking at the, you're waiting for the possible onset of COVID. Am I correct in that?
Yes, you are.
So that's where the 5-day window here for testing comes in. So the individuals who are participating in this have been identified as a close contact, and they have to, in order to stay, get tested every day for those 5 days, possibly more, depending on, the given individual situation.
Is it right when they come to school?
That's the idea would be, it's
Walk
right
into
that
them.
you go, we've identified, here's our list of close contacts that we should be seeing today who have given us consent. We give that to the CIC health individual who's helping us out. Happens depending on the level, the student and or possibly parent dropping off, allows for the testing to happen. Students negative, we go on about the school day. Students positive, we have to dismiss that student and we go into quarantine.
And then do we recommend they go for PCR?
They would have to go for a PCR.
And how are we defining close contacts now in terms of vaccinations and masks?
So a close contact, if you are actually vaccinated in masks, right now, unless you're symptomatic, you're able to come.
So you can't qualify to be, you're not designated a close contact if you're masked and vaccinated. Ever.
So according to the CDC, yes, you're a close contact, but you are allowed to attend school as long as you are, as you said, vaccinated and not symptomatic.
So,
Right. They have to be fully vaccinated.
so
and not-
70% of our high school students can't be close contacts right now, roughly. I know the number is around there.
Yeah, it's about
Okay.
69%. Yep, 61%.
Yeah, which is why the high school has the fewest close contacts.
Which
that
is
get
why the
quarantined.
high school has a few schools.
Yeah, correct.
And with the other grades will catch up as vaccinations become more readily available and
That's the hope, is
Okay.
that they will catch up, yeah.
So-
Right now, we have the most close contacts at our youngest school, Meadowbrook, because they can't be vaccinated.
is that 15 minutes within 3 feet now? Is it with masks,
So it's
unvaccinated?
15 minutes, even masked, within 3
3
feet, yeah. But
But
it's
collective,
cumulative
yes.
over the course of a day.
Yeah.
So
It's like the whole class. Well, not
well, it
necessarily,
depends
but
on the
yeah,
class, it
yeah.
depends on the activities.
Structure,
It depends, yeah.
There's a lot of
In some
variables for all of
cases,
this.
yes, there's unfortunately, it could become the
Good
whole
amount,
class.
Yeah,
Would we, if we did the test and stay, require the students to be driven in so they're not sitting on a bus? And also, is it one testing center that they go to in the district or?
So that's a great question. And I think Ms. LaBombard can give you some anecdotal information around some of the districts that are doing this. I mean, the ideal would be that we actually get staff from CIC Health so we could set it up in every building. I'm not sure that we're gonna get the
I
idea.
don't know how you can get that many.
Yeah, I don't think we will.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably, and I think Ms. LaBombard can give us more insight, at least what's happening in districts similar to our size, that they're gonna rotate based on need.
Yeah.
And so, okay, the need is, at Meadowbrook, we have X number of close contacts, and then, or they rotate, if we have needed a few schools based on arrival. So-
Really? That doesn't sound logistically possible.
But I just meant.
We're gonna have close contacts in more than one school on a given day.
Right, depends on how.
So why not do a centralized,
Well, you might be able to do that, so.
well, a 5-day overlap, you're gonna have, you know what I'm
You
saying? If you
could-
go 5 days per contact.
I don't,
What? Do you want to hear what other districts are doing? And-
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't
No,
know.
So a district similar to our size is doing this. They're only doing test and stay. They're not doing the pool testing or the symptomatic. What they do is every morning, the nurse compiles a list of students that have consent and have been deemed a close contact. And they give that list to the CICS staff person. And they usually start at the high school because, they start earlier. Then they would go to like the middle school and then the younger schools. But so they get the list every day. They test the students, then they take the list and bring it back to the nurse, so the nurse knows, who's negative, if anybody's positive. And I guess it's worked out very well, but sometimes they don't have to go to every school. So I don't know if we should have a centralized location. And if we did, where would it be? What would be a good location?
Your office, Kelly.
I would hope we could avoid that. I think that's gonna be a lot
It
to
is
put
gonna
on
be a lot.
families.
Yeah.
To avoid a
bring to a different
centralized
school.
location.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then we just have to be realistic that they're not gonna get tested as soon as they walk through the door.
But
It
why,
really depends on, I think, on
on the
whether
numbers?
CIC Health can staff us to the level.
And does it have to be CSE Health? Like, our nurses can play a role in this too, unless I'm misunderstanding the definition of the program.
Possibly, but in reading the documents is at least to the point that I've gotten to in the application process, we kind of sign on with them and they're supposed to train us and they're supposed to staff us and they're supposed to have a point person.
Mhm.
Now, I'm also realizing that that's the ideal.
Right.
Yeah, there's no way we're getting 5 staff members, especially because every other district is looking for them at 7:30 in the morning.
But if our own people
But
are
they
willing to
staff-
get trained,
They're already in that district. Like the districts that are operating, CIC already has staff in that.
But they're there all day.
Well, they go to that district, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they would have to have 5 more staff
Correct.
members if we added it in.
Right.
In every district in the Commonwealth as well. So I think that, I don't know, maybe I don't know.
Well, I think more and more districts are gonna sign on with the
Yeah.
numbers
You're right.
exploding, and I
Maybe-
think that'd be a problem.
yeah, well, that's all I'm
just-
saying,
Or
it's
we
not a
may have to
half.
You said
hire
that
additional staff.
My big concern is, are they pulling up and this is being done while they're in the car? Are they coming physically into the school? Are these kids arriving on a bus? Or are they being
There's
dropped
no
off
close
by their
contacts on the bus,
parents?
so.
Do you have any idea, Kelly?
Well, this particular district, they would let them ride the bus, but they had to wear their mask at all times.
We're gonna
They
work on
have
that anyway.
anyway.
Yeah.
What district is that, Kelly? Can you tell us by chance?
Can I, Gordon?
It's up to you. I think it would be better.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
to not-
It's very similar in size, and I know the nurse leader very well.
And there are no
But
close
Because
contacts
we're only
on
getting
the
the
bus.
information from one district, we didn't want to put it all on.
Right.
That's up to you, Kelly.
I mean, I
suppose.
know that there's another local
We
district
didn't say that
where
we were
they
necessarily
have
going to
one
disclose it at the school
building,
committee meeting.
they have one set
But doesn't the
point.
community know that they're doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kelly,
That's why
Do-
I don't need to know that bad.
Okay.
That's all right. Thank you.
I guess I just don't want them on the buses. I mean, if, okay, we're trying to make it easier on parents, we're trying to get the kids into school. Can they be a Carline student for that day? Can they pull
But
up
it's not just that
forward?
day.
Well, I
5
mean,
days.
I
5
understand
days.
that.
It's 5 days
It's
back
better than being at
and forth.
home,
remember, they're not
You
a
know,
positive.
It's not fourth, it's just.
They're
Right.
not close contact.
They gotta
but
get
it's
home.
better
though.
than being at home.
They can go home, they've been tested. They just
So they're
can't-
not a positive, and they're not continuously being exposed to that positive individual.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
They're a close contact. at least.
And there's no close contacts on buses per DESI, so they wouldn't be able to.
Oh, so they
technically-
can't ride anyway then?
No,
Well, I
they,
think
No,
they
no,
should-
They can ride.
What?
Meaning there's no such thing as. a
there's no
close
such thing as
contact.
a close contact on a
contact.
bus.
You can
So by
ride with your
definition, they
mask on.
wouldn't potentially be infecting anybody on that bus by
Right.
definition of per DESI. I'm just saying, like, we wouldn't
No,
be,
if you're unvaccinated and
No.
masked,
not on a bus, Greg.
No, it
There's
doesn't,
no-
because,
That's the one I
right,
said.
the windows are
Contacts
see how
open.
silly this all is,
But I'm
really?
just- that's
Can we
what
all
I'm
be
saying,
realistic on how silly this all is?
You're
You're okay in a
not,
bus, you're okay in a restaurant, you come in a building, you're not, school building, has to say school on it, yeah, go
but
ahead.
the point is,
sorry.
like, if somebody was in the test and stay program and did test positive, we wouldn't be sending any other kids home who they rode the bus with, because by definition, anybody that was on that bus is not deemed a close contact. So we're not risking putting any other kids out of school, because there would be no close contacts that we
And
deem.
they're
Yeah, it's
they're
fine,
close
but
to
are-
one another.
But
We don't
do
make
they
those
have an
rules.
increased chance of having COVID? And if so, if we're trying to prevent COVID, should we not put them on the bus?
But
That's quite- I think that's where you're-
That's
happening
my
every day.
question, I just don't think.
I-
No, but it's not
Right.
knowledgeable, not direct contacts.
I
Currently,
think so.
direct contacts are not coming in on the bus right now.
Currently, they're not coming in at all, and that's why
Right.
101 kids at home.
Right.
I don't think you can exclude them off the bus and participate in a state-funded program because it's their
Now we're denying
regulations.
access to public transportation.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then that's the case. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
How about we
no,
just agree to that? Okay, good.
I'm not disagreeing with the,
Yeah, I'm just
sort
more
of some of the,
stating the fact that we're not.
So they
putting in-
enter they come off the bus, because they're not close contact, and they walk into the school, and they're
they would
walked
go
directly
to wherever the
to.
testing
Testing
spot
site.
is, yeah.
So, but if we chose to do, and I know a nearby district has a actual spot, it's one building that everybody goes to, are the buses pulling in for that? I mean, you would know that, but, or
That
is
would
that
be,
gotta be,
yeah,
the
I don't
parents
know
gotta
how
drive
you do
them?
that, I think that.
I would
you
think
have
the
to-
younger kids would be coming with their parents
Yeah.
because they're gonna have the test, and if they're positive, they're going home.
Yeah.
Negative, they're staying in school.
Right,
I guess I feel like,
Subsequent days. My daughter participated in this. She took the bus and every day she gets tested so that she can stay. Only because she's a close contact and she wasn't fully vaccinated because it wasn't a complete
didn't have
2
enough
weeks
time,
after.
yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
really helped us out as a family because she can continue to go to school.
Kelly, do we have data on how many close contacts were eventually positive COVID? Do you have that by chance? Any idea?
Very few.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's the crux of it, right?
And that's sort of what we want, why in part we waited. We wanted to
Yeah.
know what was happening in our schools. We
Yep.
wanted to see what was happening and troubleshoot and hear from surrounding districts as to what is working, what isn't working, what's the impact on families. We also want to see what our data is. I mean, that's concerning that right between the first 3 weeks of December, almost 165 kids have been out of our buildings.
Yeah, let's do test and stay.
Like that's, but
But yeah,
whether they,
I'm like
it's not what
all
I'm saying.
for
I'm
it.
just
I
saying like
just-
these are all
The
data
logistics of it are, we may not get those 5 people, so which of your nurses is willing to say, yeah, just get them in, I'm gonna test them and get it done, like, obviously, I think
but I
most
think we,
important
yeah,
point
you
person
don't,
would be
you don't,
Meadowbrook.
right, you don't necessarily need to have,
doesn't have to be.
a nursing, someone with a nursing license to do the
It's
testing.
okay.
Others can be trained to test, so we would have to look into how we staff those testing rooms.
Mhm.
If we can't get somebody
If we
from.
can, if we can't get someone from CIC Health, and that could, well, it would be
And they
tough.
can be out too
If
from
school's
time to
going
time.
on, then it'd be challenging to have current staff who, do it, unless
But how long does
staff that comes in the afternoon,
how long does it take the Binax test to administer?
I think 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Each person?
It takes 15 minutes to get the result, but the test itself is very quick.
Yeah.
I am dealing with 3 agencies right now. So if we couldn't get the CICS, we may be able to get staff from these 3 agencies that I'm working with.
But we also, to be clear, can hire at our own discretion and train people that we already have here with an ELPS. Like
Yeah.
we're not, I just want to make sure we're understanding we are not reliant
Give options.
on outside agencies.
And we
I
have
think you
money.
do have to have them trained by
They,
CIC.
yes,
Yeah.
train,
Yeah.
I 100% get that, but in terms of finding personnel,
No, we
we
can,
don't
we
have
can,
to get them from outside
Exactly.
places.
Do our current nursing staff have to be trained, or are they considered?
in the application, it looks like we do have to have a coordinator at each building
Okay.
designated. I have not had had an opportunity to discuss that with Ms. LeBombard, so I don't know if that can be one person, is listed 5 times, or whether that actually has to be an individual who's gonna be at that building every day, so I have to do some more
I
investigation.
guess I'm just feeling like if we were gonna start with somebody to get,
So-
the training,
So I
it
guess
should be our nurses.
my response to that question is, then that coordinator is gonna have to be trained
Right.
Yeah.
in this as well as the
Yeah.
overall program.
I believe
My-
the training is online and it's very quick is what I've,
I've heard the same thing. It's not
So,
really that
I
extensive.
mean, if we're gonna do this, I would want the coordinator probably to be our nurses,
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay,
but we haven't had that discussion, so
alright. So should we talk about pool now?
we should. So the third,
Moving
the
along.
third element of the DESI testing program is pooled testing. And basically, this is a way to try to prevent future spread. And what this is samples are collected when they say samples, so there's multiple people who would be swabbed. And then in that pool, if a positive comes up, then they would go in and do the Binax testing as a follow-up. This is more around prevention and trying to get an idea of how much or present the virus might be in a community or in a given building.
So any student would have to have already signed off on that, you can have a
You'd have
class of
to
20
consent.
kids.
Yep.
And 10 parents signed off on it and 10 parents didn't, so 10 kids would get tested and
This
the
is
other
bad.
10 wouldn't. And why am I not gonna be able to get tested? I wanna get the things.
I don't wanna-
So their
I don't like
consent
pool.
form is actually lists all of them and, obviously if the school committee chooses to only participate in one or two of these, then we would have to have some communication that even though the consent form that we have to use lists all of these, East Long Meadow Public Schools are participating in this testing and this testing or just this testing.
Yeah, school does nothing for us on a
No.
daily basis. It's delayed and all, it's like, and then if you get a positive, you're going for a Bionex anyway, which might miss a positive going through. So, yeah, I don't like that one.
So how would we like make a motion on these? Cause like we wanna get
Still got,
Kelly
still got some more
her,
slides.
no, I
Yeah.
understand that, but
so you
like,
can make a motion.
I'm just thinking,
Good
we're
time
not
to think
making a
about
motion, but I'm just saying like, we wanna
Eventually
make
you're gonna make
sure
Let's try to move this thing along.
that
Yeah.
Kelly has the ability to do what she has to do in terms of her staffing.
Well,
So just think about that as we move along.
we
Okay,
can ask for recommendations.
Well, to Beth's point, I think she just wants to know that you and Kelly and the nursing staff will work out coordinate the
Correct.
logistics
we would have
to
to.
making it work.
Well, yeah,
Because
If
we
you
have
choo-
ESSER funds if nothing else.
If you choose to
Yeah.
participate in test and stay,
Gordon will make it
then
work.
we have to,
yeah.
How's that? That make you feel better? Yeah.
There you go.
It's all she wanted to hear.
pretty much.
All right.
I don't want us to impede their success. is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
we won't.
right, yeah.
I will do my utmost to make sure their success happens.
Me
Okay.
too.
So because we've been talking about it, DESE, to make this program work, has contracted with a company called CIC Health. They provide support for any district participating in this. They provide support around all three components. They would train staff and possibly they would also provide staffing on a daily basis for us, which would be ideal. They also help us manage and order all the testing kits.
Gordon, one point, I apologize, I didn't bring this up on the slide before,
Sure.
that I just think is important to clarify.
Yep.
Because it doesn't, I think that we just want to underscore, if someone is considered a close contact while at school, this does not apply to if
Yeah.
somebody is a close
That's a
contact
great
through
point.
an outside
Yeah.
event. So if
Yeah.
I have a sports team and my child becomes a close contact through that sports team,
Yeah.
I cannot use a state-funded test to then come into school and say I'm a close contact
yeah?
of a sports team. It
Why
is
not?
only.
It's
So
Because
how many of the
only-
101 kids are direct contacts from
You're talking
not
about
schools?
63.
So,
Connection.
yeah, so we would not be,
How many of them?
if you had 101, I don't know offhand.
You
Uh,
Kelly, do you know that number of the 101?
There's-
How many were school identified?
Yes, the 101 are school identified.
School
Over-
direct
But
contacts.
since the beginning of December,
Those were direct
I
contacts.
I didn't count like, sports teams or community. I just
So
counted
That's
our
just
close
cool.
contacts we identified.
Yeah.
Okay, so still good number.
So mom or dad
Still, yeah,
have
it's still a large
active
number.
COVID and they can't use this, which is
Right.
ridiculous. But
Yes.
thankful that they're
So,
offering
so
what
it's,
they
yeah,
are,
so
but-
there is some challenge there.
Yeah.
And then, we identify, we're very thankful.
Huh, that's
Um,
weird that.
We're working closely with the health department. And so if we learn of a situation that happened with a youth basketball team, okay, the health department lets us know these close contacts have been identified. We work with them to make sure that they're supported, but they are quarantined and they wouldn't be able to go and
Test and
test and
stay.
stay.
For in-school close
Yeah.
contacts.
In-school.
That doesn't make
only.
any sense whatsoever. If the goal is to keep kids in school, why are we penalizing those who are close contacts?
Well, because the funding is for school
School-based
programs, not.
programs.
But
They're
shouldn't it
paying
be
for the
keep kids in
kid.
school?
But that's
They're
not.
just questioning it
But
and
the
it's
funding's
not gonna
coming
change.
through DESE, not,
Yeah.
I think the
Right.
funding, Greg, the funding would have to
Thanks,
come through another organization or institution.
Right. Somebody
Okay,
else would have to
well,
step
does that
up.
apply though? Can we fund it?
I don't know.
So if the goal
I
is
don't
to keep
think so.
I don't
kids in
think you wanna
school.
get-
I don't think you can participate in test and stay and
Regardless.
You can't modify it.
I don't think you can change the rules.
Yeah.
Isn't it silly though? I mean,
Well, it's a baby step.
because you get it at 10 o'clock at night versus 10 o'clock in the morning.
But if
This
we
whole
were
thing is-
involved, we would have had 101 kids in school. So
Right.
I think we have to
Right.
look at it from
If
that
they opted
perspective.
into it.
If they opted
Yeah.
into it, like, it's that balancing act
Yeah.
of, this is what we have,
Is
one
what
of the
it is.
options we have available. It can help in certain circumstances, so maybe it's something we should consider. The same way vaccinations can help in certain circumstances for a while, and that helped us at the middle and the high school. So it's
Yeah.
another tool to help us keep kids, hopefully, staying in school.
I mean, simply put, for families, it's just one more option.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, if you choose to participate in any one or all three of the components, families don't have to choose that
Right.
option,
Right.
but they have that option,
Mm-hmm. And staff.
right? And
Yeah.
staff, yeah,
Staff, yeah.
which would be the symptomatic one, anyway. You asked for recommendations. Alright, so next steps. So depending on if you choose to vote this evening to participate or not participate, that's the starting point. I would finish the application to DESE. If you vote this evening, I would try to submit that as early as tomorrow. We would then be alerted as to what type of training and setup process we have to go through with CIC Health. And then we would start that, and they would help us with this, that communication process of getting consent forms out and informing our families that this is something that would be starting in the near future.
How near future?
I don't know, because I don't know how long it's going to take them to get us set up.
And what's the percentage on our teachers vaccinated in the district?
Building by building, I think high school's got 80%.
Well, they're all around there. So only those that don't wear masks, I mean, 70 to 80, right? Would be close contact. So really, you were talking about staff. It will only apply to 20% or so.
In terms of quarantining close contacts,
In terms of
staff.
eligible
being quarantined.
for test and stay.
For symptomatic, oh,
Right, so yes, if they're vaccinated, they wouldn't be designated as a close contact,
in terms of the symptomatic.
as long as they're not symptomatic.
Right.
So the symptomatic
Okay.
testing, can we vote on that for just staff members?
I think he said he didn't know.
Yeah, that I
know.
don't know.
Can we-
It's my understanding that if you're voting on it, it's really an option that you
Be offering to all.
you're offering to all.
So
in
if
the
we
school
vote on
community.
it, can we vote to like not do the symptomatic unless we can specify just for staff? Just to,
I
you know,
suppose, yeah.
I don't know if you can even do that. I really don't.
I mean, that's
I don't know.
that's up to all of you, and I can ask that question if it comes back, yes, you can do it just for
Yeah,
staff.
but do we
then
want
fine.
people with symptoms
Yeah, you
on a
gotta,
PCR, on a, what is it, the
Binax.
COVID test or Binax?
oh,
I think we want them on a PCR test. If you have symptoms, we should wait for the
Yeah.
I
PCR.
guess, we'll wait. Sorry,
No,
we
it's
got those substitutes. I'm going.
I mean, how many
You're right.
staff have we quarantined this year because they were symptomatic?
more in December than the other months.
How many is more? Like,
And we are having staff that are positive that have been fully vaccinated.
yeah,
And boosted.
that's the Omicron. Well,
Staff this week, most of them actually have been positives, not.
right. So they've gone to the test and they're positive. That's the point though, right? So they have to go get tested and they're positive. So I don't know if there's as much of a need.
Yeah,
It's
mean,
kind of
once-
shoehorn in.
once they're positive, right.
Yeah.
They have to,
Right, let's stay home for 10 days.
Yeah,
I think, at least in the most recent surge, we've only had a few that were close contacts and that we're gonna have to quarantine. Am I right, Kelly, in terms of staff, not students?
but they weren't vaccinated, the staff.
They were vaccinated. Remember, it's 15 minutes closer, over cumulative over the day, so it depends. on-
Vaccinated and masked?
Yeah, within 3 feet. Within 3
Distance
feet.
still plays a role
Distance still
within
plays a role.
schools.
Yeah,
So you can be a close contacts, fully vaccinated masks if you're within 15 feet.
No,
3
I mean,
feet.
3
3
feet, I mean.
feet.
3 feet.
For
For more than
over
15 minutes over the course of
So
the day.
why did the vaccinations and masks even come into play?
In most classrooms, you're not gonna, in the setups, you're not gonna be into that 3-foot range for that length of
But then you're
time.
not a close contact anyway.
Correct.
So why are we
There are
talking?
some classrooms, and I don't wanna go into too much more detail, because then I'm gonna start allowing
Yeah.
things to be identified, but there are some classrooms in the district where that's just not an option. over
I
the
thought
course
it
of
was
their
better to be
career day.
vaccinated and masked.
It
In
is,
terms
it is.
of not being,
It is.
It is.
okay, I guess I'm just not understanding.
Now, if you have the vaccination and you're close contact, you can come to school still because.
No, but you're
so-
not close
No,
contact.
in this
Or you
case,
are.
so in these cases, the time factor is what played a difference.
Anyone within 15 minutes of a positive is a direct contact regardless of vaccination or mask.
If they're within 3 feet
For 15
for over 15 minutes.
cumulative minutes.
Mhm.
Okay, I thought it was if you were vaccinated and masked all day, you could not be a direct contact, but I'm wrong.
If you're within that distance of 3 feet or less for over 15 minutes, then you can
Then
be
you
a
can
close
be a close
contact, yes.
contact.
In most
If
cases,
you're at
throughout the
teacher
district,
table for
people are
reading
not.
And then you're back at the teacher table for math, you gotta keep it at 7 minutes and 7 minutes.
So that's why it's been so hard for the younger grades because.
Correct.
But they're not vaccinated. But we said the high school doesn't have as much, but they're vaccinated.
He's talking about staff,
Okay.
but
Well, no, I'm
staff still can
No,
become.
I'm talking about students too, though.
Oh, well, you were asking about staff, so that's what I was answering.
But staff that's vaccinated and masked, if they're within 15 minutes, within 3 feet, they're a direct contact.
They're close
Close
contact.
I mean,
Close
close
contact.
contact.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
I was misunderstanding.
which goes to the point that Mrs. Blair was making.
Testing center.
So it's
Yeah.
challenging at the younger grades in some cases.
Why younger versus, because they spend more time
Sure
together.
that
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
And they're
I thought it was
eating-
because they were not
and
vaccinated,
they're
but
eating
that's
in
not
their
it.
classrooms
No,
in
you're
some
talking about
cases.
staff.
Yeah.
And students, I'm talking about students too.
No, I understand, but your first question was around staff being close contacts.
We do still have some.
Yes, we still have some, that was the answer.
Yeah.
Because they're within 3 feet, full stop, for 15 minutes.
Yes.
For
Yeah,
more than
correct.
15 minutes, yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Want to make a motion relative to,
I move that we participate in the test and stay program as outlined tonight.
motion made by Greg,
I'll second.
second by Bill. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. And that motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, so
Thank you.
just so I'm clear, test and stay, just that one component, not symptomatic, not pool test.
Correct.
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 Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you,
Thank you, Kelly.
Mrs. Lombard.
Right, so now we have an update from Mr. Quimby, if you don't mind coming up to the front.
Absolutely.
Don, is there a certain spot? Oh.
I have to just video the back of my head, it's up to you.
Thanks for joining us,
Yeah, of course.
Ryan. And you're gonna give us an update just on the technology device insurance programs. I know we had set kind of into motion, is it 2?
Yep, 2 weeks ago.
No, I meant like the program itself, 2 or 3 years ago.
2.5 years
Two
ago.
and a half, right in the middle. So looking just to see how we are doing with that and if
I mean,
there's.
so I don't think we've actually discussed the one-to-one program at all since COVID really started.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the last time we talked was the first school year we had it, when we were successful in finding the funding and, you know, just by happenstance lucked out, being very well prepared for the pandemic.
Right.
As I'm sure Gordon let you guys know, we scrambled and got devices distributed when the pandemic started and we went remote back in March. It kind of was what hurt us a little bit as far as inventory control went, was the 3 to 5 schools, because we didn't plan on those devices going home. So we scrambled, got the devices out as best as we could, and to my own fault, kind of said, you know, we'll play cleanup after the fact. We just need to get the devices out there. We're still kind of playing cleanup. Some of the issues that we've had were when we went back to in person, we made the decision to leave the 3 to 5 schools with devices being assigned to the individual students themselves, instead of the model that we had the year before, which was it'd be assigned to the classrooms. We figured with the 3 to 5 schools, they already had it with the pandemic. They had them take home, well, at home. So they had that responsibility. And as far as care of the care of the devices has been, it's not been really an issue. The issue is more so on just the kind of, it's been a sticking point with the paperwork side of things, playing cleanup. If we do have an issue with the device, swapping it out, then as we're doing that, we're trying to catch up on our paperwork. So we're catching up, we're getting a lot better at it, we're a lot closer to where we really need to be, but that's kind of been our catch up as far as this year goes. From the handout that I gave you, you can see we're actually in pretty good shape as far as devices go. Birchland is our biggest source of broken devices by a good margin, and I talked to a couple of my counterparts, and it's pretty much uniform across every one-to-one district is that you get your damage from the middle schools. The high school's been a lot better with a lot less device damage, and then 3 to 5's not a lot, and Meadowbrook's marginal too. So what we're looking at now is I still have FY22 funding left to purchase devices. Once I get a green light from finance, we're gonna purchase those devices and hopefully move those in before the end of the school year. I guess didn't make it all the way around.
Sorry, I thought it was just, you were giving me something.
Oh, Gordon.
Are those available to purchase inventory wise out in the world to buy more Chromebooks right now?
I haven't seen any inventory alerts for them.
Okay.
Yeah, I know last couple of years have been very tough.
It's getting better then.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely getting better.
Okay.
We had, the last purchase that we did, we bought a couple hundred we gave out to all the paraprofessionals, and we got those in pretty quick. So we're gonna use the rest of our capital funding to purchase devices, which are gonna be replacing our older ones we have in circulation. So the gold ones, we have some of the older HP 360s are gonna be end of support. So every Chromebook you buy has a built-in date where it's going to be not supported anymore. And it's not from when you buy it, it's from when they release that device. So every year we have to buy the newest model instead of buying the similar model, which typically don't have the same parts in them. So every year we buy the latest model. So it gets us a standard 6.5 year support. And we try to do our replacements at 5 years.
That's another tracking
Yeah.
item that you need to do, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, so we track that. Once we find a model for the year, we pretty much stick to it. So we've switched from HPs to Dells, and the Dells have been great, and we've been just purchasing those. The HPs we had, we bought 1,266. That was our initial capital purchase when we got into one-to-one, and they had a defect where there's a little cable that would come unplugged inside the Chromebook, and we got to take it apart and fix it on probably like 50% of them.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
a lot,
Wow.
a real lot.
You got
But
good at it then.
my guys did, real good at it. We have one of our previous technicians that moved to California, is home for the Christmas break. So we actually have him working on our devices, the stack of broken devices that we had. So he's brought a couple of those back, 22 of those back to life for us. He says he can bring back another 30. I'm giving you a safe number, saying get another 25. Those are the ones we use for device swap outs. Where the repair account has come in helpful is getting us those spares to have on hand. So if we didn't have those spares on hand, the student wouldn't be able to have a device. They would have to wait for us to repair it until we can get it back to them. And with our regular workload we have and not being able to get to the repair them, it'd be a lot longer of a wait for the swap outs. Mondays are always our worst day because you get all the stuff from the weekend. And the first day of January is going to be a tough one.
Sure will.
Always after breaks.
Can I ask a question about
Of
that,
course.
Ryan? So like right now, I know our son travels back and forth daily with his laptop. He does not use it daily. So if there's no planned assignments, like would that be a recommendation then from your department that the kids not come home with the laptops over the break? Or because just to that point, like if they're not assigned anything related to academic content, that's 10 days that they're at home when they don't necessarily need to be.
True, unless, so one of the philosophies we had when we were developing this plan is we don't want these to be a strictly educational device. We don't want to lock them down, so all they can get to is Clever and the very specific apps that they have. We want them to actually at least try to enjoy them a little bit for themselves, so hopefully they'll take a little bit better care of them and, become a little more attached to them. If they don't want to take them home, I don't know if they actually have charging areas in the school. I'm not sure what school
We
kids are
don't
at.
have charging areas in the school
Charging
set up
stations.
anymore since I think the most we had were at Meadowbrook.
Yeah, so Meadowbrook, all
That was
the,
pre-pandemic.
up to, I think, second grade, we have some charging areas, and both, in first grade, they, in kindergarten, don't take home, so they have charging areas completely.
Okay.
I think some of the schools have sign out chargers, I know the high school does, so it'd be kind of case by case basis.
And we did buy cases for those Chromebooks, right, for the kids,
Yep, for Birchland, we did,
just Birchland?
just Birchland, and then as they move up, they're keeping them. We talked to some high school kids when that was the year we had the high school student help desk.
Yeah.
And they're like, we'll never use it. Okay, well, we're not gonna spend the money then.
Exactly.
It's the best way to find out, ask the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the Birchland kids, are they required to use the?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, if they're,
they were, yep.
okay.
Then we first started, and actually that was, so the first year, these numbers are only for this school year. The first year we had it, we were getting like 3-4 broken screens a day from Birchland because of the cases were actually had a clip that would fall in and they'd close it and would crack the screen.
Wow, jeez.
So Tim and Connor got the word out and got that resolved pretty quickly, but wow, quick snag that we had to figure out. So I'm not sure if there's other things you want to know about the one-to-one project or our device counts, kind of where we're looking to go.
Just on a capital perspective, planning wise, that's the pace we're gonna have to keep, because you're looking in 2 years, 30%, you said a 5-year, so.
Yep, so
Every year,
every year would be 20% of our inventory has to be turned over
oh, yeah, right.
to keep it 5-year replacement cycle. Yep.
And then how is the infrastructure in the buildings and in the town holding up with all these devices?
So we actually upgraded our wireless this past summer from we had an old, not so much older Cisco stuff, but we upgraded to Meraki, and it's been amazing.
Okay.
Like, we haven't had, last 2 years, we've had every day be a wireless complaint. Wireless complaint here or there, we tweaked the settings a little bit. We put the new wireless in and not one, I've really heard much of anything other than some small one-off things, but nothing wide scale like we had, especially Meadowbrook was bad.
With everything else in the world going up, have you seen a dramatic price increase on these devices?
Not particularly. So I try to budget $250 per device. That includes the management license. So you buy the device, then you buy a license which is attached to that device, which allows us to manage it through the Google Cloud system. And the last quote I had, it was about $262 a device last week. So I gotta try and get that down to $250 a device once I can get the green light from finance on our capital account.
Okay,
You
thank you.
know, I gotta say, because I know that you worked with Pam, I know you worked with, the town with the budget and all that kind of stuff, but I think back to when we started with just trying to get the first couple devices in the school, and what you've done is pretty impressive. Just want to let you know that I know I appreciate it. I know going into this pandemic, I appreciated that it was already set up, and that while other school systems were scrambling, we were there. And I know that it was just a future thought on your part to see how we move along from years ago, and it was very well thought out. So thank you.
I got a great team, and I can't praise them enough. From when we were in the pandemic and in the heart of it, trying to get the devices out, they worked incredibly hard
Yeah.
and got all the work done, got the devices out. We were working on people's home internets, trying to fix problems, and
Oh, yeah.
get that working better.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
They really was.
Definitely did a lot and, made it work. And, we got a little bit of cleanup, but pretty much all our devices are tracked. I think we have like less than 10 missing devices, which
That's great.
That's
when
pretty
you have
impressive.
gone over 4,700 devices, not too bad.
Yeah,
Hey, how many devices were in the town when you started?
When I started for the town, there was on the town and the schools, probably about 800.
Yeah.
Now we're,
Sixfold.
yeah.
Please.
And we've added one person.
Your department's changed. Yeah. Well, you're that good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do we offer any purchase programs?
So with chapter 30B, you really can't do that.
Okay,
There's not, I don't want, there is a solution for it.
okay.
There's a website called Municipid, which is kind of like an eBay for
Mhm.
municipalities trying to get rid of things. I'm just looking for finance, for a green light from finance, and then we can start getting rid of those. I mean, we have 2 generations of teacher computers I want to get rid of. We have
Right.
at least a good couple $1,000.
Or
worth of
like
equipment to get
exiting
rid of.
seniors, there's no way because of that to offer like a for purchase.
Oh, no,
option,
no. Well, because those devices will be recycled back to
Gotcha.
3rd graders or 2nd graders.
What happens to them after the 5 years, then, after the warranty's up? What do we do with them physically?
More than likely send them to a recycler. There's still a market for them for some reason.
Yeah, I figured.
So our old generation that has aged out completely, one of the recyclers offers us like $6 each.
Wow.
So it's a little bit of life, but when you got 900 of them, it's
Yeah.
a little bit.
Worth doing.
So when they age out, do they just stop working?
They keep working and they might not work. So we were using the older ones because we had a low, we didn't have enough devices that were supported. So they worked at the beginning of the pandemic, but they started to not work with some of the programs that they used.
Okay.
So then we had to get those shuffled out with the supported devices.
And there's no software update that's coming through, right? That's what happens in terms of,
Right.
they fall off the support cliff. So
They fall off the support, so then you'll get stuck behind the versions. So it's not like when you think of, you got Windows 10, now Windows 11 is coming out.
Yeah.
With Chrome, I mean, they've been out for 10, not even 10 years, probably 7 years. And they're on like version 96, I think.
Wow.
So it's very frequent.
A little bit on their part, but.
Anyone else have questions?
Oh, so yeah, what about the, so I think I paid for like 2 years.
Yep.
For the insurance, so when do you get hit up with that again? Like, I should have been paying again, I would think this year unless I did 3.
Yep, so that's one of the things that we have to work on. I try to keep this to one sheet and I took my what we need to work on thing off of there. One of them was tracking the paperwork, getting the paperwork in better. And the other thing is reminding parents to re-up insurance. We don't have a great, it's all a Google Sheet based system that we have right now. So you can pull reports out and run reports that way. But it's not great how we communicate it out. So when we have a device come to us, we check to see if they had insurance. If they had insurance and had expired, we offer them the opportunity to renew the insurance.
So
Because-
how do we as parents know what to do? Because I'm like looking at you like, no.
You deal with your school office. So all the school offices have access to the Google Sheet and can see who has insurance and who doesn't.
And the original was for 2 years?
I think you can go up to 5.
We get a-
Yep, and then that got cheaper as you went up.
Okay,
But I mean, so if you bought 1 year of insurance, it's $30. One screen now costs us $50,
okay,
and there's no deductible for a screen.
okay,
But a full device, I think it was a $50 deductible for a full device loss.
okay. So I
They're
suppose we should
$250.
try to figure, when I say we, I mean not me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do we let parents know? 'Cause I don't know if I did it for 4 years or if
They
I
can
didn't.
parents can contact their
They
school
can.
office.
But no one's gonna contact, you see what I'm saying? No one's gonna wanna go pay. We're just
Right.
assuming we pay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like I don't suppose there's like a.
So how are we gonna
automated
notify
list.
parents that their warranty is
Yeah,
expired if they want
it's
to?
hard to, we don't have a mechanism to sort of automate, okay, these 40 people are now
Right.
without insurance or their insurance
So
expiration date's
without
coming
the
in.
insurance, do we gotta pay for what's fixed or the town just eats it?
$50. 50.
It's $50.
If it's a screen, yeah, which is our most common.
Okay, all right.
And if you had insurance previously, we reach out and, offer you the opportunity
They've been very good about that. I was just gonna say,
Oh, okay.
that
Alright.
collaboration between the
We do theirs.
school offices and IT staff
Yeah.
is just
So you can re-up in
phenomenal.
the moment.
Exactly. We'll give you a little bit more than a moment, but
Okay, all
Well, we
right.
should probably look into doing what's best asking and reach out to parents on an annual basis if we can, to look at that list and say,
Because
you're up
this is
this year,
forever
if you'd
now.
like to re-in, now's the
Yeah.
time, if not, you're not.
And that's why we give everybody the grace period if they had the insurance previously, because it's really only fair.
But that's only if they're breaking though. I'm saying we're not getting those people that would fund that insurance
Right.
policy necessarily because they just don't know.
Right.
There's gotta be a way to do it out there, that's already.
Probably need another body to keep tracking it.
You think so? You don't think that there's a program out there that's
There
just
might
out
be.
there and that we could just start using, because if this is forever, it's gonna continue,
Yeah.
and so.
That's a valid point.
Don't they expire on an annual basis? It's like here's the date.
It depends on what they
Right,
bought.
so if I bought 1 year, mine expires this year. If I bought 2, it's here. But so I'm
Right.
saying, look at it once a year. Those
And
that
the
are expiring that
schools-
year, we just reach out to them. You're
schools
expiring
have
this
that
year. I
information
know it's easier
back
to
to my
say.
school.
I get you.
Exactly.
So is that something then, if the schools have that with the dates? Like, I'm
Yep.
sure it could sort, if it's a Google sheet, it could sort by date. Is
Yep.
that something that the schools could take on and send it home like with the
We
first
should.
semester's report
Yeah.
card?
You should.
So that way there's like a system, like it's a uniform system across.
I mean, it might be something that they want to do with sort of the summer paperwork.
Yeah, that
let them
goes
know,
with the fall, that
um,
first week of papers.
you know, hey, these folks are up, your insurance is lapsed as
Yeah.
of June 30th kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
I
know
just
I
wanna
have-
add that, nobody, this was a whole new program, so now when it came on and then we're trying to, back into, okay, how do we do this and who's gonna,
Right.
everybody already has a lot of work to do, so I know it sounds simple, but it does take a lot of time to do those kind of things, so I do think we could do it better, and again, collaboration together, come up with
I just feel like it's a lot of money you're missing out on. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we're trying to make money out of
Yeah.
people here, but I have
No, but if you
no
have a
idea
renewal,
if I paid for 2 years or 4
some
years
kind
or
of
12,
communication.
I have no.
Well, I think there's a lot of people in that boat. They don't,
Yeah.
you sign it once, you send it in, you forget.
Oh, we get it, almost every time we get that. Oh, my kid has insurance, so I think they have insurance. They don't even remember if they got it or not.
Yeah.
But
I mean, to your
Bought
point,
3
there's
years
a-
ago, you're
if
not
they
gonna-
do have it, there's a grace period,
Right.
so.
Alright.
But I think there is a better program. It's just gonna take some time to figure out
Exactly.
how to get it up and running.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Okay.
So just through that on the side.
Right, and then when we start doing online forms and benefits.
Didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, either that or we just offer a 1 year. We go to a 1 year and then you just have to re-up every year. Then you
Yeah.
don't have to track it. It's just everybody.
Mhm.
One of this year, you pay this year.
Right, because it was a brand new program and that was something we were testing out, so maybe that's gonna be the end result, is that, okay, we go
But I think it'll
It's like a
simplify,
bus
it'll
fee. It's like
simplify
a
it.
bus fee. You
Right.
gotta pay every year.
run it, yeah.
Goes out at the beginning of the year. Maybe that's a solution. I don't know.
I mean, well, it'll simplify it. There's gonna be no question of if you have it or not. You either did it or you
Or
didn't.
you do it from like elementary, middle, high school, so,
But again, you'll forget.
no, you do it for 4 years.
Well, I
Oh,
know.
so incoming, first
Yeah.
kindergartners or first graders, incoming fourth, yeah, I get you.
So if you're going to Birchland, you have to pay the Birchland insurance when you get to high
Big,
school.
big
you gotta-
insurance
Yeah.
bill.
I mean,
That's an
Right.
opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot more,
Yeah.
a lot more risk there.
Definitely wanna start with them first.
Yeah.
Ryan, you mentioned that the part that got cut off was the things that need to be worked on. Were there any other items?
It was the tracking, it was the paperwork tracking, getting the communication out to the parents was the other big one. Those are the two things I had
Okay.
really identified where we struggle on it. The town manager had asked for our things that the next town manager would need to work on by department. And one of the things I had added was an additional staff member in IT. So right now, we are treading water perfectly, but we're not moving forward. So in order to generate these reports, we had to go through the last year of tickets and fix tags, because when you just do a search for screen through our ticketing system, it brings up broken screen, screen sharing, cracked screen. So
Not what you're looking for.
data cleanup, just because everyone's working so
Yeah.
busy. Because our last ticket that was tagged correctly was March 13th in 2020.
Correct.
Mhm.
How many FTEs in IT?
There's right now, including myself, 9.2,
Wow,
8.2.
okay. 8.2.
That includes mini dispensers now in IT. GIS services used to be in public works, that's moved to IT.
Oh, that's a full-time position?
Yep.
Yes, oh, wow,
Yep.
okay.
So he's been, that person has been great in that role, as well as assisting us with any other data type things. Working with SQL databases and saving us money with different programs.
And how's his face work now?
Not bad, I mean, we'll take another classroom if you got it. but-
New building,
Right,
get your nice spot, yeah. 9 years.
That's true.
right.
Heaven.
Yeah.
They have aggressive timeframe.
Yeah,
2026.
2026, yes.
I looked at my watch like that's gonna tell me.
That's gonna be right.
Okay.
Let's start.
According to
Or
state.
to start,
No.
to be
no,
done.
To be done.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
You know, that's ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
With no
like
hiccups.
CIC health staffing 5 members
Oh, yeah.
to test and stuff.
Thanks, Ryan, for coming tonight.
Ryan.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Nice to have a visitor in person too.
Yeah,
Thank you,
problem.
Ryan.
Coming
For
in.
making the effort, even though to everybody else, you look like you're away.
No,
Sorry.
he was on.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Thank you, Ryan, and let us know as you continue to think about those items that you need support with moving forward, how we can.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Right.
All right, so we need to go back to the SMART goals from last time. I know there were some edits that we're
There
gonna need.
were, bring them up. No, I have it. I was struggling to end my screen sharing and now I'm gotta get.
That was my big role for the evening.
Oh, would you like to? Oh, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. So just as you had indicated, Mr. Trulio, we are bringing these back and we had a lot of discussion at our last meeting when the leadership team helped present. And we made revisions based on that discussion. And so what I'll do is I'll go to the different slides where we made revisions. So the first one. Why is that not advancing? There we go. Was actually on the SMART goal around the whole child. And at the bottom there, we had discussed that was to move below 4%, but we made it specific to decrease it to 3%. And moving a few more slides in. One of the things that we had talked about in our professional development session, but I think it's important that, you know, as we talk about a through line between school committee goals, the district goals, the superintendent educator plan, make sure that we have elements that are showing that common thread. And so one of the things that we added here, that this is just one of the action steps around supporting the whole child. And it talks about, as you know, from our presentation, the district equity and diversity steering committee and the work that we've been doing over the last few years. This also, as you go down, we just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware. This aligns with the Student Opportunity Act plan that we filed with the state 2 school years ago. Am I right, Ms. Brown? And we have to update it again this year, but the Student Opportunity Grant and that whole application process outlined a number of areas, one of which was around moving districts forward with this type of work with equity and making sure that you're putting together policies and practices and procedures that are allowing all students to access all that your school district has to offer. To instructional practice goal. This was something that obviously had quite a bit of discussion, and ultimately, I believe in that discussion, we actually started to revise the goal, and I think I've captured the revision here. We do know that at the end of the year, this is more evidence than say benchmark measurement. But throughout the year, the work we're doing is trying to support staff, obviously, in providing a standards-based 21st century learning experience. Are we able to say 100% of staff across the district are doing that? Probably not. and I think the next revision was actually in learning achievement. Here we had a number of measurements, but one that ties in sort of the state expectations and gets back to a presentation that we made now 2 meetings ago around where our baseline data is. In most areas and grade level spans, we're achieving above the state, but we're no longer necessarily above the state in all areas. And so certainly that's got to be a focus, that we reestablish that our students at all grade levels are achieving above state averages on our state assessments.
This is just maybe semantics, but I don't want it to be confusing when we're talking about typical growth in the first item and typical growth in the third.
Yeah, one's iReady and one's on the MCAS.
So, okay,
It is designated around MCAS. We could change
yeah.
it.
No, I just want really what that means just is very different based on the test.
Correct. Yeah,
That's all.
each assessment defines typical growth
Right.
differently.
Mhm.
And certainly the state will break that out for us as they break out our assessment results. The nice thing is, with using iReady within the district, we can break that out quicker and faster, and the reports will show us what that looks like across the district.
And then the only other pieces we had talked about, including connections back to the acceleration roadmap. I just don't see those.
And I apologize, I don't know where Ms. Brown and I had discussed looking, and we went back through the meeting. Where did you want us to make those revisions?
I mean, I think they could either go at the top or as a footnote or on the last page where we have kind of that circle with all of them on there. I just think it's, rather than having to ask ourselves to go back and look at another document, trying to make sure that this
Right,
encompasses.
because of 3, no, I understand that piece. I apologize that I
No,
missed
that's
that.
okay.
It was, so I can add sort of the benchmark that these goals are coordinated with the DESI accelerated roadmap.
Sure. Or even just go 1, go 2, go 3, and what they're aligned to. Like, it doesn't have to be anything grand. I just think it needs to all be in one place. Like, if these are our goals, they need to align with DESI's acceleration roadmap.
Okay. We can make that change.
Move to approve the ELPS SMART goals for 2022, 2021, 2022 with the change that was just mentioned.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Greg, seconded by Beth. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0. Thank you for making those adjustments. All right, next item is the school committee goal setting.
Well, obviously, this item was based on how far we got in our professional development prior to this meeting. So this may be an item you want to table and maybe schedule another professional development session.
We'll table this item until our next meeting, or possibly even one beyond that, 'cause our next meeting is very close.
Yeah, next meeting,
January
January 3rd,
3rd.
it's the Monday right after the holiday break. Yeah.
I would say the last meeting in January, maybe.
And that'll give us a chance to possibly talk.
Well, but we gotta do budget for the 11th, right? Or no, that's them.
No.
Okay.
No,
Well,
we got time.
we're gonna look at that
So that
overview.
meeting, we'll be discussing just the opening meeting.
Yeah, but you said they requested an over.
No. All it is just a status sort of
Okay.
where we think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I misunderstood.
Do you need a motion to table it, or are we fine just to say table it?
You know, Bob's.
No, we're good.
That over? Okay, and we'll look at that at one of our meetings in January. If we feel compelled to have it come back and be settled by the 3rd, we can do our best, but if that's an aggressive
I think it's gonna be cool.
timeline. All right, so then we have the superintendent's educator plan. Is this something we also think we might need to table? Because if ours aren't set,
I
or are
mean,
they gonna be in any?
it doesn't impact what I'm doing. I just now then take on whatever else you identify in your goals. What I did in terms of the revisions regarding the district SMART goals is I added things that we discussed, such as, we were doing the learning walks. I just added them in so that they're actually officially on the plan.
That was.
I mean, the reality is, it's a great question. I guess I'm a living through line. So,
Well, I think that's a good way to put it.
so the district SMART goals are gonna be part of what I'm doing on an everyday basis. My educator plan, obviously, is what I do on an everyday basis. And then anything we add that's overarching and connecting it all for the committee. Obviously, a good deal of that work or coordinating that work will have to come through this office.
Move to approve the superintendent's educator plan as presented this evening.
Motion made by Greg. Second by Antonella. Any further discussion? We will come back to ours, but not voting. So, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. That brings us to the end. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Heather, for being here with us tonight. Kathy, thank you for taking notes. Nick, thanks for being here and staying the whole time. Everyone a good break. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Bill.
Second.
Second by Beth. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everybody.